AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. OpenAI finally goes open source. We have a new 3D world generator which is interactive and real-time, and this can generate anything you imagine. This AI, which is completely free, allows you to generate consistent storybooks about anything with just a prompt. Plus, it includes narration.
"Welcome, my sweet pea," she said. They played games, baked cookies, and read stories all afternoon.
The best open source video generator, called FastWan, just got way faster. You can generate clips in just seconds with a normal GPU. We have a new open source image generator that's designed just like GPT-4o. Anthropic drops their best model yet, Claude Opus 4.1, and a lot more. So let's jump right in. This week, OpenAI finally goes open source. So they actually released two open weight models, which are called GPT-OSS 120B and GPT-OSS 20B. So this one is the larger model with 117 billion parameters, and both of these are basically mixture of experts models, so think of it as like a team of AI agents working together to help you solve a task. So this bigger one has 128 experts, and of course because of its size, this offers stronger reasoning capabilities and performance. However, this one can normally only be run on something like an H100 GPU. Now the second variant is a lot smaller. It only has 21 billion parameters, and it has 32 total experts, and because of its smaller size, this one is more optimized for local usage, so this can fit on consumer-grade GPUs. Now, the nice thing is these are both under the Apache 2 license, which has very minimal restrictions. You can even use this for commercial purposes. Now, both of these are state-of-the-art models that are capable of things like chain-of-thought reasoning and tool use. In other words, this can kind of autonomously use various tools at its disposal like web search or a Python coder or a data scraper, just to name a few examples. So next, let's look at some of their self-reported benchmarks. So on the left, the lighter bars are the new open source models, and in terms of competitive coding, you can see that it's actually pretty close to the performance of their leading proprietary models O3 and O4 Mini. And then if you look at humanity's last exam, which is not really appropriately named, this is basically just a benchmark on an AI model's knowledge on really obscure scientific subjects, things that most of us would normally not know about. Now, this does perform a bit lower than O3 with tool use, but it's still pretty impressive, given that this is an open source model, which you and I can use and tweak further. And then in terms of health bench, again, at least according to their page, this actually comes pretty close to OpenAI's O3. Same with the graph over here. And then for AIME, which is competitive math, both the open source models do really well. But honestly, AIME is kind of a saturated benchmark right now. Like, I think Grok 4 Heavy got 100%, and a ton of other open source models like GLM 4.5 and Kimi K2 also score super high. So it doesn't seem like a relatively hard benchmark to ace. And then here is GPQA, which is graduate level science questions. Here you can see it performs slightly worse than O3, but still pretty good. Now, across this page, they only compared these OSS models with their own proprietary models. So you might be wondering, well, how does this actually compare with other competitor models? Unfortunately, it's not actually that great. So here is a leaderboard by independent evaluator, artificial analysis, and it looks like Grok 4 is number 1, followed by O3 Pro, and then GPT-OSS, even the 120 billion parameter version, on high mode is all the way down here, even below Gemini 2.5 Flash and below DeepSeek R1. However, it is really cost effective. So if you look at the cost over here, this is the cheapest compared with all the other models that you see above it. Here's another leaderboard called LiveBench by Abacus AI. And if you scroll down a bit, here O3 Pro High is ranked number 1. And where on earth is OSS? Gotta keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling some more. Did I miss it? Here we go. So it seems like OSS is all the way down here. Even below DeepSeek V3, this isn't even R1, and Grok 3, Claude 3.7, and so on and so forth. So it doesn't rank well over here. Now here's a really important leaderboard called the hallucination leaderboard, which basically tests how often an AI model hallucinates or just makes an answer up. So over here, surprisingly, the AI model with the smallest hallucination rate is Gemini 2.0 Flash. And then let's try to find OSS, which is all the way down here. And this is just the 20B model. It doesn't seem like the larger variant is included on this table, but this has a hallucination rate of 3.7%, which is pretty huge. That means if you're using this for like really intense medical or legal research, it could make stuff up 3.7% of the time. So keep that in mind. And then I also tried searching for OSS on LM Arena. This is where users can blind test different AI models, but it doesn't seem like they've added OSS to this leaderboard yet. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the nice thing is they've released all the models already. So if you click on this Hugging Face link, it takes you to this page, which gives you all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. In addition to this, if you click here, you can actually try GPT-OSS online. Here it gives you the option to also view its reasoning. So let's click yes for that. And let me just show you the largest variant, and yes, let's turn the reasoning to highest so you can see how performant this is. Now, asking these questions are kind of pointless because all of the top AI models can already do this. So here I'm really trying to show you how good it is at doing deep reasoning and research. So let's try this prompt. For a newborn with congenital heart defects, research surgical options and long-term prognoses. Suggest monitoring steps and genetic counseling. Compile into basically a comprehensive report. Let's press run and see what it gives us. Here you can see its thinking steps over here, and it's really quick. And then afterwards, here is an executive summary. Here's an introduction. Here's a table with common types, and this is actually super thorough, as you can see over here. Here are some surgical management options. Again, everything is super thorough and detailed. This is really good. And then here is a table on long-term prognoses with the survival rate, late implications, expected functional status, etc. And then we also have quality of life considerations. And then we also have a very thorough table on monitoring and follow-up protocol from newborn to adolescence. And everything is just very detailed and comprehensive. And then here is some genetic counseling recommendations. And then here are some survival rate charts, practical checklists for parents and caregivers, and all these references. Very nice. So that's one example. Or let's try another example. Let's test out its coding ability. So for the prompt, I'm going to write, generate a crypto portfolio dashboard showing price fluctuations in animated lines with risk assessments and trade simulators. Put everything in a single HTML file. Let's press generate. So you can see it's thinking through how to code this up. All right. And then after thinking for 31 seconds, here is the full HTML code that it gives me. So it's a really long piece of code, and at least for this online interface, it doesn't seem like there's a download button for this HTML. So what I'm going to need to do is copy this and then open up a new notepad file and then paste all the code here and then save it and then open it over here. But as you can see, this is actually pretty good. So here is the dashboard. It seems like the info is kind of up to date as well. Now this chart is pretty bad though. This is like stretched all the way down here, so it's not really accurate. And we do have a trade simulator over here. So let's buy like 20,000 USD of Bitcoin and then simulate trade. And it looks like it doesn't really work too well. So it doesn't seem to be as capable as another open source model which I featured last week called GLM 4.5. Which can generate a really nice looking crypto portfolio dashboard with the same prompt. Anyways, those are just some of my quick demos. If you're interested in reading further and trying this out, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is incredibly powerful. It's called FastWan, and this is basically a fine-tune of Alibaba's Wan, which is currently the best open source video generator you can use right now. Now, the original Wan 2.1 or 2.2 are pretty slow, especially if you have a GPU with low VRAM. However, FastWan basically speeds this up by a lot. So let me just play you this demo really quickly. Here they're comparing how many videos FastWan can generate compared to the regular Wan 2.1. So as you can see here, in order to generate a video with FastWan, it only requires like 3 steps, whereas to generate a decent looking video with WAN 2.1 or 2.2, it requires like over 20 steps. So as you can see, FastWan is way faster with minimal sacrifice in quality. So here it says FastWan can generate a 5-second 480p video in 5 seconds on a single H200. So it's like 1 second of video per second, which is almost real time. Now, most of you don't have an H200, so for your reference, it takes around 21 seconds to generate the same 5-second video on a single 4090, which is still super fast. And then here's a comparison between the speed of FastWan versus WAN 2.1 and 2.2. So the regular WAN versions are in the dark blue bars, whereas FastWan is in yellow. And as you can see, for all these different variants, the speed up is huge. So for this WAN 2.2 5 billion parameter model, FastWan is 46 times faster. And then for WAN 14B, FastWan is 98 times faster. That's pretty insane. Now, the nice thing is they've actually released a free demo for you to try this out. So let me click on this. And then over here, you can choose between WAN 2.1 or 2.2. Now, we're going to go with WAN 2.2, which should be slightly better quality. And then for the prompt, let's just go with one of their examples. So let's do a cute, fluffy panda bear is preparing a meal in a cozy modern kitchen, etc., etc. You can also input your own prompt over here. And then here's where you would specify the height and the width. Here's the number of frames. And then let's click run. So down here, you can see the estimated completion time is around 14 seconds. And here is what we get. Let's play this for you. Indeed, we have a panda cooking in a cozy kitchen. Very nice. Also notice that this is 16 frames per second, so if you set this to 121 frames, that's going to be roughly 8 seconds. Or let's try another prompt. Here we have a tranquil scene in the heart of a dense forest, emphasizing 2 large textured tree trunks in the foreground framing the view. Behind the tree trunks, a clear view of a calm, muddy river unfolds, etc., etc. Anyways, let's click run again and see how long this will take. And by the way, you can view the total processing time up here. All right, here's what we get, and as you can see here, the total processing time is around 19 seconds. And the generation speed is 7.2 frames per second, which is incredibly fast. Anyways, here is our final video. Indeed, we have 2 tree trunks in the foreground, and then in the background, we have this muddy river. Now, really quickly, how this works is they basically use a technique called sparse distillation. In a really simple sense, this basically involves training the model to pay attention to only the most important parts of the video rather than processing every detail. And this makes the video generation way faster. And because of it, you can generate decent looking videos in just like 3 to 5 steps instead of like 30 steps for the regular WAN model. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, the nice thing is they've released everything already. So if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll down a bit, it contains all the instructions on how to download and use FastWan on your computer. Now, notice that for now, at least for WAN 2.2, they've only released the FastWan model for the 5B variant. But they are also planning to release FastWan for WAN 2.2 14B. So stay tuned for that. All the links are up here, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, we have some really cool features from Google Gemini. This is a really useful and free feature for everyone on the Gemini web interface or the Gemini app. So they've just released this feature called guided learning, which basically simulates a virtual tutor. So you can input any subject that you want to learn, and instead of just outputting the entire answer for you at once, it actually guides you step by step and asks you follow-up questions so you can learn the subject a bit better. This is a really useful feature if you want to learn something step by step. So for example, let's try this prompt. Teach me about cellular respiration. So you can see here the answers are a bit shorter. It's asking me questions at every step. So here it's asking if I prefer to start by comparing 2 main types of respiration or walking through the 3 main stages of the process step by step. So let's just type number 1 and then press enter. And then here is what it gives me. The main difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration is this. This happens when oxygen is available. This happens when oxygen is not available. And then here it asks me a follow-up question. Given that aerobic respiration uses oxygen, which process do you think generates more energy for the cell? So it actually kind of gets me to think critically about this. Now, I don't actually know the answer to this, so let's just write aerobic and let's see if that's correct. And I got it correct. So aerobic produces far more ATP, up to 38 molecules from a single molecule of glucose. And then here it explains why this is, and it compares it with anaerobic respiration. And then afterwards, again, it asks me a follow-up question. Would you like to explore the 3 specific stages? Yes. So here are the 3 stages. Let's start with the first stage, ready, and then so on and so forth. Or here's another example. Let's write teach me Japanese. I'm a complete beginner. And then here is what it gives me. So apparently Japanese has 3 writing systems, which are these 3 over here. How about we start by learning the first 5 hiragana characters, which are the 5 Japanese vowels. So I'm going to write okay. And then here it's teaching me the first 5 vowels, which are these ones. And then it's asking me, can you tell me what the word I would look like using these characters? So it's probably going to look like this. Let's press enter, and it asks me another follow-up question. So this is a really nice and free way for you to learn something step by step. Now, this isn't the only tool out there. So last week I featured exactly the same feature, but it was released on ChatGPT. So if you click down here, there's this study and learn option, and this is basically the same thing. So it's also a virtual tutor that kind of guides you through learning a topic step by step. So it seems like this week Google kind of copied the same feature and added it to their Gemini interface. It's just gemini.google.com, or you can also download the app. Anyways, I'll link to this page in the description below if you want to check this out. Oh, and did you think we were done talking about Gemini? Here's another insane feature that they released this week. So they now have this free storybook feature, which basically allows you to create personalized, illustrated storybooks with narration that can be read out loud in just seconds using AI. It's completely free for you to use. So for example, let's actually try one of their prompts. Let's try this one. My 7-year-old doesn't want to sleep over their grandma's house. Create a storybook to help them cope. Let's press this and then press submit. So this might take a while, but you can see here it's creating the storybook, including the draft and the illustrations. All right, and here is what we get. So here's the cover. Here is page 1. And by the way, this has a voiceover which narrates the storybook. So let's actually go back to the cover and then just press listen.
Lily's Starry Night Sleepover. Lily skipped all the way to Grandma Dot's front door, her little backpack bouncing with every hop. "Grandma," she shouted, a big smile on her face. Grandma Dot opened the door wide, her eyes twinkling. She gave Lily the biggest, warmest hug. "Welcome, my sweet pea," she said. They played games, baked cookies, and read stories all afternoon. But as the sun began to set, a tiny flutter started in Lily's tummy. "It's almost bedtime," Grandma Dot announced. Lily nodded, but her smile felt a little wobbly. She missed her mom and dad already. Grandma Dot sat beside Lily on the bed. "Are you feeling a little bit like a wobbly jelly, sweet pea?" she asked softly. Lily nodded. "Well," Grandma whispered, "I have a secret cure for wobbly jellies. It's called the Starry Night Story." She pulled out a special blanket covered in glow-in-the-dark stars. As Grandma told a magical story about a brave little star, Lily snuggled under the blanket. The glowing stars on the blanket seemed to dance and twinkle just for her. Soon, Lily's eyelids felt heavy, and the wobbly jelly feeling disappeared. She drifted off to sleep, dreaming of brave little stars and cozy blankets. The next morning, Lily woke up to the smell of pancakes. The sun was shining, and she felt bright and happy. "Good morning, Grandma," she chirped. When her parents arrived, Lily gave Grandma Dot another big hug. "Can I come back again soon?" she asked, already looking forward to her next Starry Night story.
And you can see everything is super consistent. The illustrations of all the characters are the same, and the story is actually very coherent. And it's actually relevant to the prompt that I specified, which is over here. And by the way, over here, you can choose between two different voices, one higher pitched one and a lower pitched one. So let me also select this lower pitched voice and then play you the first few seconds with this voice.
Lily's starry night sleepover. Lily skipped all the way to Grandma Dot's front door, her little backpack bouncing with every hop.
I think this is one of my favorite tools this week. Now anyone can just create their own personalized storybook for their kids. Again, this feature is completely free to use on the Gemini platform. I'll link to this exact storybook feature in the description below if you want to check it out further. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out Keevx, the sponsor of this video. Keevx is an AI-powered video creator that can spotlight your product in seconds. This is the perfect tool for creators and small businesses looking to create content quickly and easily. Simple enough for beginners, powerful enough for pros. They have a new URL to video feature where you can just paste any product link from Amazon, eBay, Shopify, or App Store. So I'm going to paste in this link and Keevx will automatically parse all the info about the product. I can select any avatar, aspect ratio, and duration, and you can also choose to add selling points about the product. Notice I don't even need to write a script. I just enter a topic and their AI script generator will instantly create a full script for me. And boom, here are so many fully scripted, fully animated videos I can use, all in under 5 minutes. And they actually talk about the product and its selling points. This is so fast and easy. I can click on Continue in Editor to change it even further. For example, here's another super powerful feature. Their AI video translator can instantly convert a video into over 70 languages. The AI detects original speech and generates localized captions and voiceovers. Sign up for Keevx now and get 5 minutes of video credits for free. No payment required, no catch. If you invite a friend, you get 25 more minutes of video. It's completely free in full HD 1080p without a watermark. Click the link below and try Keevx today. In robotics news, we have a new demo from Unitree. This time, it's of this new robot dog called the Unitree A2 Stellar Hunter. And this is a pretty hardcore robotic dog. As you can see, it can even run through and smash glass. It can do front and back flips. And here's an even more impressive thing. It can just balance on 2 legs, whether it's side legs or front legs. And holy smokes, it can even just balance on 1 hand. And look how fast this thing runs, even across uneven terrain. Imagine this thing chasing you down. Plus, it can also support a pretty heavy load, as you can see here. And it can even climb things that are a meter tall. This is just so acrobatic and flexible and blazing fast. Now here are more specs for your reference. This is approximately 37 kilograms, and it can reach speeds of up to 18 kilometers per hour. The maximum weight it can carry is 100 kilos, plus this can walk up to 5 hours and 20 kilometers on a full battery charge. It's equipped with 2 industrial-grade LiDAR sensors and an HD camera for advanced detection and autonomous navigation. But we all know that the true use case for this is to find you and hunt you down, of course. Plus, this is very temperature resistant, so it can operate in temperatures from as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius to as hot as 55 degrees Celsius. So this is an absolute beast for industrial applications. Notice that Unitree has another robot dog model called the Go 2, but it's way less durable, whereas this new model is really designed for more industrial use cases. In other news, this week we've had our first AI chess tournament where the top AI models in the world compete with each other in chess. And here are all the matches. Notice that for each match, it's the best of 4 games. So over here, we have O4 Mini and DeepSeek R1. O4 Mini beat DeepSeek in 4 out of 4 games. And then next, Kimi K2, which is a non-thinking model, went against O3, which is probably the best thinking model out there. So this is so unfair. Of course, O3 is going to absolutely crush Kimi K2. In all fairness, I think we should have a separate competition just for non-thinking models, because this isn't really a fair fight. And then we have Gemini 2.5 Pro against Claude Opus 4, and it crushed Claude, which is not surprising. I'm actually not too impressed by the models from Claude so far. They're only good at certain coding tasks, but for everything else, I would prefer other models. And then we had Grok 4 against Gemini 2.5 Flash, which is a smaller version. So as expected, Grok 4 won all 4 rounds. And then we had the semi-finals, so it was O4 Mini against O3, which is again one of the best thinking models out there. So obviously O3 beats O4 Mini for all 4 rounds. Now here's where it got pretty exciting. So we had Grok 4 against Gemini 2.5 Pro, and it was pretty close. I mean, both models are state-of-the-art, and it was a pretty close match. In the end, Grok 4 won 3-2. And then finally, here is the final match between O3 and Grok 4. Now this is really surprising. I did not expect O3 to absolutely obliterate Grok 4 4-0. I mean, Grok 4 is a pretty performant and capable model, but it turns out that, at least in terms of chess, O3 is just way better. So those are the results. O3 got the gold medal, Grok 4 got silver, and then Gemini 2.5 Pro got bronze. Anyways, for each match, you can actually replay this on YouTube. So if you're interested in checking out the videos or reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Now, on the same day that OpenAI released their open source models, Google drops Genie 3. And this is not a coincidence. The big AI companies always try to drop something the same day that their competitors do in order to steal their thunder. So in any case, Google DeepMind releases Genie 3, and this is a super impressive world model. Now, just with a text prompt or uploading an image to use as a reference, it can generate a fully interactive 3D environment, which you can move around and explore. And it responds to your key presses in real time at 720p resolution and 24 frames per second. So this is incredibly powerful. Now, I featured a ton of other world models before, but none of them could generate interactive videos which respond in real time of this quality. And notice that you can also change the player. So in the previous video, he was driving a cart. In this one, he's driving another vehicle. And notice that he actually bumps into this object. So it's also really good at physical understanding. Here's another example where the prompt is walking on a pavement in Florida, where one side is the sea, and it's during an approaching hurricane with strong wind and waves splashing over the road. And indeed, that is what you get. So notice it's also really good at simulating the physics of water and wind. You can see the trees are blowing. Indeed, there are waves crashing onto the road from the side. And I mean, you can specify anything. So here, you can prompt it to be a fast tracking video following a jellyfish swimming at high speed, and here is what you get. Indeed, this is a tracking video following this jellyfish. But of course, you can also move around and explore the scene further afterwards. You can also specify, the vehicle that your character is driving or maneuvering. So here we have a helicopter pilot carefully maneuvering over a coastal cliff. And that is indeed what you see. So it's really good at understanding all sorts of objects and vehicles and scenarios. It can even do some macro zoomed in shots of this foliage like this, as if you're viewing the scene from a bug's point of view. Very impressive. Now, it doesn't have to be first person. It can also be third person, where you can view the player from behind. So here's an example of a vibrant 3D style fluffy creature bounding across a vibrant rainbow bridge in a fantastical landscape. And that's indeed what you get. So you can see how this technology could very well be used in video games in the near future, where nothing is predefined. A video game could just be a video generator, which is fine-tuned to respond to certain controls, and you can just prompt it to generate whatever world or character or scenario you want. It's pretty profound. And notice that as this character walks around this island and moves back and forth, the objects remain the same as before. So it also has memory of, the spatial configuration of everything in the world. If you walk back, you get the same thing. It doesn't just randomly generate something else. Here's another example where the prompt is being a lizard, origami style, and here is what you get. I thought it would generate Zuck as the character, but I guess it made a real lizard instead. Anyways, again, you can see how this can be a very playable platformer game like this. Very impressive. Here's another cool example where this time you are controlling this Firefly character. Or here's another example where you're controlling this character in this fictional landscape. I mean, this looks exactly like a scene in a video game. It's incredibly good at generating different types of characters and actions and scenes. Here are some more crazy examples, so you can follow this guy as he soars through the Alps. Look how realistic this is. It even captures his shadow down there. Here's another example of a regular sunny day in a neighborhood, and this is what you get. Very cool. This technology could potentially also be used in Google Maps. Now this is pretty cool. You can also open the door of a car like that. That was not expected. And if you look down, you can also see yourself walking, including your shadow. And if you walk across these plants, notice that the plants also move. So for the most part, everything is very physically accurate. Here's another really cool example that shows how Genie 3 can maintain spatial consistency with a memory window across your video generation. So if you paint the wall and then you look somewhere else and then you look back, notice that it retains the areas where you painted. Now, one limitation of this is that it only has a memory window of around 1 minute. So if you leave the scene for over a minute and then you walk back, then maybe your painted areas will disappear. Here's another cool memory test. So let's say the chalkboard looks like this right now. If you rotate your view so that you don't see the chalkboard, let's say you look out the window or you do something else, and then you also look down, you look somewhere else, and then you look back at the chalkboard, it's the exact same image as before. Very nice. Now, in addition to just pressing the arrow keys or looking up or down, you can also use prompts to add elements into your scene. So let's say you have this prairie here. Well, you can prompt it to add a brown bear to the scene, and here is what you get. Very nice. Or instead of a brown bear, let's add a green tractor, and this is what you get. Notice that there's a green tractor on the left. Or let's add some hot air balloons, and here is what you get. Here's another example. Let's add a chicken suit runner into the scene. And here's what we get. Pretty cool. Instead of just adding things with a prompt, you can also specify certain actions with the prompt. So, for example, let's say we have this bakery. Well, we can get it to approach the industrial mixer, and it actually understands what the industrial mixer is in the scene and walks towards it. Or instead of industrial mixer, let's get it to go to the cooling racks, and that's indeed what it does. Or here we have a market, let's prompt it to approach the flower stall, and that's indeed what it does. You can also chain multiple actions together. So for example, here we're getting it to approach the costume rack first and then walk over to the painted scenery wall, and that's indeed what it does. Or here we're getting it to go to the rack of aluminum sheet pans first and then walk over to the large red industrial stand mixer on the counter. So those are some of their really impressive examples, but there are limitations to this. First of all, it's currently limited to 720p, so it's still below like full HD or 4K standards. And then there's also a limited action space. So while you can get your player to perform some actions, these are generally really limited. It also can't really model complex interactions between multiple agents or players in the game, so you can't, for example, talk to other characters in the generation. The generations currently also don't have any audio, and it's also not really able to simulate real-world locations with perfect accuracy. So if you want to get it to generate a certain street in New York, well, it'll probably make up most of the buildings, and it won't actually be the exact buildings on that street in real life. It's also not really good at generating text in the video. And currently, the model can only support a few minutes of continuous interaction, not extended hours. But nevertheless, this is super impressive and still the most interactive and highest quality real-time world generator I've seen so far. Unfortunately for now, none of us can access this. It's still in development and access is only limited to select researchers. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further or viewing more demos, I'll link to this main announcement page in the description below. So this week I've been swamped with making not one, but two tutorials on image generators that have come out. One is FluxCrea Dev, which is really good at generating normal amateur looking realistic photos, and the second one is called Qwen Image, which is insanely good at understanding your prompt and generating text in images, as you can see here. So those were the two main ones I featured this week, but actually there's another one that was kind of low-key released by Skywork, and this is called UniPic. This is a tiny 1.5 billion parameter auto-regressive model. So notice that, for example, Qwen Image is 20 billion parameters, so this is like way smaller, and this is an auto-regressive model. So this is the same architecture as the legendary GPT-4o image generator. It has a really good world understanding, and this allows you to also edit images semantically. Here are some example generations. So this is just text to image. You can see it can generate various different art styles. It can generate animals in different scenes. And all of this is super impressive considering that this is only 1.5 billion parameters. So you can run this on like GPUs with low VRAM. And then next, here are some image editing demos. So let's say this is your original image. Well, you can prompt it to change it to an oil painting, and here is what you get. Or here is a pixel art style, and then finally here is Ghibli style. Here's another example. You can change the background to something like this, or you can change the subject to blue, or you can also prompt it to change the star into a candle. And then finally, here is another example where you can micro-edit this character. For example, you can add a necklace over here, or you can change her hat, or you can remove her earrings. And if you compare this with other models that are much larger in size, including Bagel and OmniGen 2, which I featured on my channel before, Skywork UniPic actually performs on par with a lot of these larger models. So it's really impressive given its size. Now, the nice thing is they've released everything already. So if you scroll down here, this contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. And again, because this is just 1.5 billion parameters, you should be able to run this on most consumer-grade GPUs. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Now, on the same date that OpenAI released their open source model and Google released Genie 3, Anthropic also drops their most performant model yet, Claude Opus 4.1. Again, they're all trying to drop things on the same date to steal each other's thunder. But anyways, this announcement didn't get as much attention as OpenAI and Google. Now, Claude is known to do really well at coding. And one of the main coding benchmarks is this SWE bench verified. And as you can see, Claude Opus 4.1 is slightly better than Opus 4, but just by like 2%. So this is just a marginal improvement. It's nothing huge. Also note that GPT-5, which was released a few days later, scored even higher on this SWE bench verified. Here are some other benchmarks for your reference. Again, Claude is known to do really well at coding, so it scores the highest in the first two rows. However, it kind of sucks for everything else. So if you look at graduate level science questions, it only scored around 81%, whereas OpenAI's O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro score way higher than that. Same with visual reasoning and competitive math. So you can see that both O3 and Gemini 2.5 Pro score higher than Claude Opus 4.1. Also note that currently Opus 4.1 is only available to paid users, whereas GPT-5 is already available to free users in ChatGPT. Anyways, let me quickly show you some coding examples using Claude Opus 4.1 so you can see how good this is at coding compared to the other leading models. Now for me, I'm going to use this platform called ChatLLM by Abacus AI. Quick plug for them, this is a platform where you can use all the top AI models out there all in one integrated platform under one subscription. So it's way cheaper than if you paid for each platform separately. Anyways, for our prompt, let's get it to create a beautiful CRM dashboard that offers real-time insights into sales, customer engagement, and marketing campaigns. Include interactive charts and graphs such as funnel visualizations, pie charts, etc., etc. And then I'm going to turn on this code button so that we can preview its generation in a side window. Let's click generate. Alright, here is what it gives us. Now, overall, this dashboard doesn't look bad. Everything is arranged very nicely. So here's the sales funnel, here's the pie chart of lead sources, here's a heat map, here are some sales and engagement trends and campaign performance. So if I click on toggle revenue, I believe this rearranges the order of these components. Same with toggle customers, toggle conversion, etc. But unfortunately, I can't drag and manually reorder any of these components. So that's Claude's generation. Next up, here's the same prompt with GPT-5, and here's what it looks like. You can see it also has very nice visuals and graphs. The only flaw that I can spot is this sales funnel, which doesn't look as nice as Claude's example. However, what I do like about this generation is I can select the time range over here. There's also this live button, plus this dark mode toggle, plus I can also select which components to show on the page. And then I can also drag and reorder any of these components, as you can see here. So this is way more interactive and customizable than Claude Opus 4.1. And then for your reference, here's the same prompt with the leading open source thinking model called GLM 4.5, which was just released last week. And as you can see here, everything also is very nicely built. Plus it looks like I can drag and reorder the components over here. So I do like that this has more interactivity than the generation from Claude. Next, here's an even trickier prompt, which I don't expect it to get 100% correct. Create a clone of Photoshop with all the basic tools. Let's click generate. Alright, here is what we get. Let me expand this and let's try the brush tool. It doesn't look like the brush does anything. Let's try eraser. Let's also try pencil. And oh my god, it won't even let me select any of these other options. And then let me try to add a new layer. I also can't add layers. There's no history anywhere. None of these buttons actually work. So that's a fail. And then for your reference, here's the same prompt with GPT-5. And I was super impressed by this. All the buttons like brush, eraser, lines, rectangles, ellipses, they all work. Plus layers also work. Plus I can also adjust different settings like brightness, contrast, saturation, etc. All of these work. Plus I can also change the opacity of layers and the blending mode for each layer. There are a ton of different settings on this app, but everything just works. I was really impressed by GPT-5. And then for your reference, here is the same prompt with GLM 4.5. So let me test out the brush. That works. Different colors also work. Let me try to add a new layer and then paint this red. Very nice. Now if I toggle the visibility of layer 2, this also works very nice. Let me delete layer 2. Next, let me try to add some text. So text also works. Drawing lines and rectangles and ellipses also work. So it's not bad. It's more functional than Claude, which doesn't even work, but it has less features compared to GPT-5. So that sums up some of my quick tests using Claude Opus 4.1. In general, I wasn't too impressed by this new model. And if you look at this independent leaderboard by Artificial Analysis, it kind of echoes my sentiment. So Claude 4.1 Opus, even with thinking, still kind of sucks. It performs worse than Gemini 2.5 Pro, or O3, or Grok 4. And even behind Qwen 3, which is an open source model. Now, if you look at another leaderboard called LiveBench by Abacus AI, here Claude 4.1 Opus with thinking does score a bit higher, above Grok 4 and Gemini 2.5 Pro. However, it is still behind GPT-5 and O3. Now, Claude is still the go-to AI model for a ton of developers and vibe coders out there. So if you're used to using Claude, if you like its vibe, then this new 4.1 would feel marginally better. But for other tasks like math or science or research, at least to me, it's not as good as some of the other leading models out there. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.